How many rappers am I having to beat to submission, leaving them in fetal positions? What's up, good people? Hello, my name is Michelle Lang Raymond. I'm the executive director of a little thing called Acts on Stage Theater Company, a brand new nonprofit theater in Seattle, Washington. Well, we're based in Seattle, Washington, but we are global and worldwide. And with me today is my friend, a confidant, a mentor of sorts, Brother Eric Knox. How you doing, sir?
What's up, Miss Michelle? Mrs. Michelle Lang Raymond? How you doing?
How you doing, right? Isn't that crazy?
I'm good.
I'm a Mrs.
It's been look, I think we've been walking together, what, 30 years?
About 25 for sure.
25 years. Wow.
Yeah, and I've been single a lot. I was single a long time, and all of a sudden in this very unusual year called 2020, I got married, and then the world it's kind of funny. I got married, and then the world got weird. So,
but you know what? You guys are a beautiful couple. God gives you doesn't give you what you want. He gives you what you need. And I've experienced that in my marriage. But I get it. We got married. We both from LA, both actually from South Central. And so we had to deal with the chaos of life in Portland. And I think that was helpful for our marriage.
Yeah.
The first 14 years.
You know what? So you lived the first 14 years in LA?
In Portland.
Oh, in Portland. Okay.
So she had no family. I had no family, which was actually good for our relationship.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So we got married, and within 2 weeks, the whole country was on a lockdown. So we spent the first 4 to 5 months of our marriage in 24-hour access.
Wow.
And I know that sounds weird, but I think it was good for us, though.
No. I tell people all the time, man.
Go ahead. I
tell people all the time, in COVID, I don't wish this on anyone. And yet at the same time, some of the most important work in my life is happening right now while I'm at home, not being able to do the things I normally get to do.
Yes.
It's allowed me to be way more creative and focused.
Yes.
And prioritize my life. So it's been, on one hand, it's been great. On the other hand, obviously, it's been a challenge for all of us.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment for sure. I think one of the reasons it's been good for our marriage as a new marriage, because I'm so busy and Jay can be so busy, that it did it alleviated us from being all over the place in the first couple of months of our marriage and actually be together. And so I think that was actually a good thing for us. I wouldn't have written it that way, but I think it's good that it turned out that way. So
how have you guys been able to keep the for me, man, the biggest struggle has been my refrigerator eating.
Yeah, that's what
we're so many starting stops.
We're good because Jay is a very health conscious eater.
Right.
I'm not. And
me neither.
He likes going to the grocery store 2 and 3 times a week. I cannot stand that. He likes it. Because he likes it because you get the fresh, he wants fresh food. And I'm like, if it's in a box and can keep for 2 weeks, I'm happy. But he's like no. But listen, I don't want to get caught up in it because you got.
All right, let's get to it. All right, let's get.
And I don't want to miss this opportunity to have conversation with you. So thankful for everybody that's already tuned in. If you are here, go ahead and say hi in the chat or in the comment section. Just go ahead and say what's up to Eric. Again, I am here and I'm happy to be here with my brother, my friend Eric Knox, the executive director of Hala Mentors. Eric, real quick, for those who don't know. Talk a little bit about, let me just say this really quick. This is Faith Forums. It is a brand new program of Acts on Stage, and it's going to be this digital place where friends come together and talk big about little things like how a creative community can change the world, if it's possible, and where it's happening. And so you are, I feel like, a shining example of how that does happen through Holla Mentors. So can you take a minute and tell us a little bit about what Holla is and yeah, just how it came to be?
Yeah. A technical definition of Holla, it's a Coach Lee specific mentoring organization for Black and brown kids. Basically, what that means is we believe in the power and potential of Black and brown youth. And what kind of separates us here in the city as a mentoring organization is the fact that we match a lot of our Black and brown kids with Black and brown college age and working professional. So we really believe that when a kid has an adult that shows up that looks like him and represents his neighborhood and experience, how do you even quantify that? And so we've been very successful in that, especially in a very white state and city like Oregon to have 62 matches has been pretty amazing. So that's what we do. I'm the founder, and I always tell people, you know, when I got Holla off the ground, I wasn't trying to found anything. I was just trying to show up and be present, just to be brutally honest with you. And it caught me by surprise. Not so much the need, but we would get off the ground as fast as we got off the ground. A lot of Black and brown families got pushed to East Side. And so I went out there, surveyed a lot of the campuses, the grade, middle, and high school campuses, realized there wasn't a lot of Black and brown adult representation in counselors, teachers, educators. And so I felt like we needed to plant our flag in that part of the city and make something happen. So that's how Holla got off the ground, and that's what it is.
I love that. And I think you have modeled that for years, decades, Eric, where it wasn't, I want to say this really quick because you and I have been both in community development and youth work of some kind for years. And I think a lot of times now, and I'm not being shady towards the youngers, but I do think a lot of times now people sort of want to start a movement. And I want to say, you know what, don't be so consumed about starting a movement before you actually just get out there and do the work. Just do what it is that you think you're going to call people to. Just actually get out there and do it. And I know it sounds cliche, but I know if you build it, they will come. You know, just get out there and do what it is you think is important. And as people see you doing it, they'll gravitate towards it. And if it becomes a movement, if it becomes an organization, if it becomes a thing, then wonderful. But it should actually be coming out of who you are before you ever sign anybody else up to do it. Yeah. And so,
I mean, yes, and I agree. I walk the halls. I don't know if we started off as a mentoring organization. I think you can either try and start something, or you can either step into something that's already moving and provide resources around it. And that's pretty much what Holla was. I walked on that campus. It took me 2 weeks, and then I was like, oh, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I see what these kids need. And there was such a hunger in the kids. You know, there was such an excitement for even an old dude like me, from Black and brown kids, just to be in the hallways. So it was obvious for me and easy for me to get Holla off the ground.
Isn't that the truth? Like, the need will find you. If you show up, wherever showing up is, the need will find you. Like sometimes we show up and we're like, I'm going to go and make myself useful. And it's like, you go and just being present sometimes, the need finds you, or it, like I said, it draws itself towards you. So I'm really thankful for the work that Holla is doing. I know at Warner Pacific University, we've had lots of college students sign up to be mentors. And, you know, honestly, I'll be honest with you, Eric, I thought maybe, you know, some of our students would sign up for a year and, you know, consider themselves, you know, have been there, done that. But you have students, you have college age students who've been rocking with you guys for years, showing up for these Black and brown kids.
Hey, we have mainly because we mentor the mentors. So it's not about just it's not just about the kids. It's about the college age and college students and working professionals that do the work. We do work with them. So they really feel like they're being empowered. And opportunities are being created for them. So it's not just fill out some kind of volunteer sheet and here's a kid and good luck. It's none of that. We really created a community, a family. And we support them. We support them. And and when they graduate and let's say they do move on, we're still cheering them on. We do our reunions, and our reunions are huge.
Yeah.
Our Holla reunions are huge. So people
Yeah.
resonate and connect with Holla.
That is so good. I think one of the things that's so beautiful about that is you're not just using college age bodies to get the work done. You are pouring into them so that they can pour into the younger. And so it's not just
Yes.
come here and serve our mission. You're saying no, our mission is not only the kids, our mission is you too.
Yep.
I love that. I love everything about that. So
yeah, we have a match coordinator, Izir, who's dope, full time.
Yeah.
He's sort of, I mean, he's at a whim available for any of our mentors. And so he's almost like the pastor of our mentors.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So he's present in a lot of our college age and working professionals' lives just to make sure they feel supported.
That's wonderful. One of my first questions to you is relative to all of this. And that's like, with all the big issues that are happening in the world, why do grassroots organizations even matter, like yours, like Acts on Stage, and how are we making a difference? It's no secret that today is November 4th. We're sitting on the day after the election day, a day that has been, pivotal for so many reasons, which if we have time, we'll chit chat about. But we're on a day where like the bigness of things is really kind of in the forefront. But organizations like Holla and like Acts on Stage are existing, and some people might say, what do grassroots organizations even bring to the table in moments like this?
Representation. Bottom line, when I came back to Portland 8 years ago and got Holla off the ground, the one thing I noticed in nonprofit work is that you had a lot of white folks that ran nonprofits in our community serving our kids without any Black and brown staff representation, mainly because they had the access and the resource to dependable funds, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of Black and brown folks just didn't have that. And so, I realized representation is important, not just adults that look like you and I showing up on the campus, but actually organizations at the top that look like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that we don't have because we have plenty of white folks that serve in our organization. But
yeah.
I remember one time I was talking to a Jewish guy who has a Jewish organization, and I asked him, "Do you just serve Jewish folks, kids?" And he goes, "Pretty much." And I said, "Is your staff pretty Jewish?" And he goes, "No, it's pretty diverse." And I said, "So do you still consider Jewish organizations?" He says, "Yeah." He goes, anyone can work in our organization. They just can understand that we work from a Jewish perspective. So we allow white folks to get involved with what we do, but we understand everything that we do comes from that pedagogy. It comes from that urban Black, brown perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only qualification is your willingness to enter into that perspective. So back to your original point, there is not enough people that look like you, Michelle, and me that run Acts on Stage and Holla. We need more Acts on Stage. We need more Hollas. I was thinking about, Opa Tometi and Alicia Garza, two co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. I was listening to them on NPR, and they had asked them, I said, "Why don't you ever have like Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton speak at any of your events?" And they said, and then the guy said, "Are you guys leaderless?" Because that old civil rights those old civil rights movements, they'd always have, like that big keynote person that would speak on behalf of Black folks. And they said, "No, we're not leaderless, we're leaderful," because a lot of our work happens at the grassroots level. So we talk about why is this necessary? Because that's where it's getting done. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Black and brown folks that look like you and I at the grassroots level, getting funding, rallying the troops, and doing stuff in our community that impacts kids because we look like the kids we serve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and no diss to those celebrity leaders, so to speak.
Yeah, no.
They didn't wake up celebrity leaders. They became celebrity leaders through time and effort and energy. No diss to them, But we can do a whole lot more locally than those individuals can do through speeches and that kind of thing. There's like we put our hands to the actual work. I was in a meeting the other day where we kind of had to pitch, acts on stage. And I said, I know as an arts organization, we sort of get relegated like we're like a fluffy kind of thing because we're an arts organization. But the truth is, the arts on a regular basis check off more of the 40 developmental assets than lots of large scale works that are happening out there in the world. And so when you think about grassroots organizations, or when you think about how are we making a difference, you can pass lots of laws, lots of policy, and all that big picture stuff, but it's gonna come down to who's doing the work in the city, like who's actually touching the people in the city.
You know what? I mean, as an ex-athlete that played at Oregon State, one constant thing I've always seen in terms of like a social movement and transforming a community, it always seems to happen through art and athletics. Period. You know what I'm saying? Like those are crucial, particularly in our community, that provide it's not the only way out, but it provides an opportunity for kids to get out. But not only that, but just being able to cross racial, cultural lines that are hard in other ways of activism. So there's a guy who's listening right now. He put in the chat that he knows Jesse Jackson, he knows Al Sharpton, and he's cool on them. But I know him, Brandon Bell. He's doing work through athletics, his community. Yes.
And he's like, the work has to come down to the street level. Brandon, while you're here, why don't you go ahead and type in the chat your the name of your organization, so if people want to look that up. Matter of fact, who's looking, if there's an organization in your city or your town or your state or wherever even that you want to draw attention to, pull it up, because we do want to say that while there's big things like an election going on and there's big things like policy and all of that jazz happening on some macro levels, we need to know what's happening in the city for the people, because grassroots organizations do matter, and they do make a difference. And so definitely don't want to miss out on that. You have anything else to say just about that, Eric?
In what regard?
Just about again the importance of grassroots.
Well, I mean, as I think about BLM and I think about the protests, what put me out to the protest wasn't so much Holla, it was kids that Holla's been serving that were on the front lines of the protest downtown and now have started organizations.
Yeah.
Black Portland Unite, which is run by one of my Holla girls and about 6 other African-American girls. They raised $35,000 and they're starting a nonprofit right now and doing phenomenal work across the city for Black kids. So, it's not just mobilize those people like you and I that have the experience. It's down to the grassroots level. I'm seeing so many active people autonomously getting out there, getting it done, doing collaborative work across the city. And so that's important to really move something forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm actually on the board of Brandon Bell's new nonprofit, basketball nonprofit. And I hope what I hope I can lend to him is the value of my experience over the years. Whether I can get on the court and do the drills or not, I think there's so much more to do and give at the grassroots that people really just don't. I think people do get it. I think people do get it. And so I just want to shout out to all of those who are out there doing the work and connecting with the people in our cities and on our streets, how important that work is. And that's not to be anti big stuff. We're just saying that the local work matters, and let's not lose sight of that.
Yes.
Speaking of which, I actually called Chelsea Jones West. I don't know if Chelsea really has an official title other than just Eric's right hand, everything.
Man, you know what? Our leadership is flat. Chelsea is the bomb. You know,
Well, I called Chelsea and I said, Chelsea, Acts on Stage is a new theater, blah, blah, blah. And we're producing our very first show. We're gonna have to scratch the traditional model of theater, and we're gonna have to go virtual. We're gonna have to do it digital. And she goes, and first of all, she was excited. She was supportive. She said, let me talk to Eric. And she almost immediately got back to me and said, Eric is not only supporting Acts on Stage, but he's thrilled about Acts on Stage doing this virtual version of 12 Angry Men. So much so that Hala is going to sign up to host a watch party and host discussions. And not only that, but Hala is also going to be one of our financial sponsors. So, I mean, in 3 different layers, 3 different ways, Hala said to Acts on Stage, you guys gave us a high five and a pat on the back and said, go. And I just wanted to ask you why. Why would you support us? Why would you host a watch party of this play? And why did you come along as a sponsor?
Well, we love you. So that was easy. We love what you do.
Thank you.
We love Black people. And we need to support each other. You know what I'm saying? Like in COVID, like when the shutdown happened in March, we were struggling. Like we were trying to get to the gala May 1st. Our gala was set for May 1st, but then Governor Brown was like, you can't have X amount indoor. You know, it was like 250, then it was like 50, then it was down to 10 people. We're like, oh no, we're not gonna have a gala. I don't know how we're gonna get through the summer. And that's like a third of our budget. But then after George Floyd, everything just exploded for us. And we said that we were going to go for it. We weren't going to hunker down and sit on money. We were going to make sure we support our folks. So when when we heard what you were getting off the ground and you needed support, I mean, that's a no-brainer. You've been around doing this work for 35 years. I knew you back in the early 90s. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we was young.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, it was just easy to, we believe in you. We know what kind of work you do. We know the impact you have, not just in the city of Portland, but in the city of Seattle. So, yeah, that was low-hanging fruit for us.
I appreciate that. And you know what? And I think that harkens back to what we said earlier about, people who just sort of jump out and start organizations without actually having taken time to do the work. I think one of the benefits of taking the time to do the work is you develop partnerships, you develop friendships, you develop relationships along the way that become resource to you. Either immediately or later down the line, those become resources because, like you said, people trust you, people trust your work, people know your voice, and they show up. And I think I'm thankful for that being the case in our friendship and in our relationship. When Chelsea hit me back and said, not only are we supporting Acts on Stage, but we're definitely going to do a watch party and we're going to have discussions. Tell me a little bit about what you guys are thinking about in terms of discussions and in terms of, just why you're using this virtual broadcast of 12 Angry Men to host discussion with Hala.
Well, I mean, at the end of part of what Hala does is raise awareness. And we saw this, we jumped on this event because we saw it as an opportunity to bring our network of people that love and respect our work and use Acts on Stage as an opportunity to do more of our advocating and education through the arts. And so this seemed like this was an easy, breezy thing for us to do. So, we're promoting, we're going to mobilize our family, our friends, our network to make this thing happen, at least on our end.
Yeah, no, you guys are going to, and we can already feel it. I follow you guys on all your socials, and I see you drawing people to this event. When we first started putting this together, Eric, I talked to Lena Thompson, who you met, and I said, Lena, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do 12 Angry Men virtual. We're gonna You know, as much as we want to invite people into our new building and into our space and watch this show live and watch 14 African-American men do a serious theatrical piece, like as much as we want to bring people in, we can't. Like, you know, it's just, we just can't, right? Because of COVID. And I said, so I'm going to get on the phone, I'm going to get on my computer, and I'm going to start reaching out to people and asking them, can they please, you know, sign up to watch this thing? And Lena really retooled my mind around before, like she was the first conversation I had, and she really retooled my mind around it, because she said, don't call people like you're begging them to do something for you. She was like, you are creating a tool that organizations can use to have these conversations. And we need to look at it like it's a tool, not like you're just doing something, but that my team created something that your team can use. And I feel like you of all people understand that, yeah?
You know what? I mean, I hate to go racial, but I was having this conversation with Chelsea because we brought on four full-time folks in the last 3 months. I mean, we've been growing by leaps and bounds. And I was sitting across the table from Chelsea, like, I don't know if I deserve this. I'm so humbled by what's happening with Holla. And then I stepped back and thought that we, like you and I, we've had to navigate, even though we served our community, we all had to navigate white space. And sometimes that creates some insecurity and a lack of confidence in what God's put in us. And so it's easy for us as we get stuff off the ground to undersell ourselves and undersell the work, not realize that, man, like you said earlier, man, we've put in so much work. We are the professionals in what we do. We are dope at what we do. And it's okay to own that. You know what I'm saying? And people are drawn to it. And it took me a while. Sometimes I'm apologetic sometimes for my success, or I come off like I'm begging because I'm not quite confident in something. I've been dope at my whole life. You've been dope at this for 30 years, right? But when you were in Seattle, I was bringing you down to do events for us. Like your gift, when I was sitting at the church that you were part of in the balcony, the first time I met you was watching you do conduct a play with a bunch of kids, and you had whatever it is, you had it. Yeah. Then I saw it. I was like, I got to connect with this girl because she got something that's dope, and it's translated over 3 decades of me knowing you.
Well, and thank you for all of that. That's a blessing to hear. I think, again, when you are doing something that really authentically, genuinely is just coming from who you are, you're not making it up. Like I remember one time, Aaron Haskins, a giant in ministry. Aaron Haskins, he was praying for me at an event one time, and he whispered in my ear. He said, "You cannot manufacture destiny. You cannot manufacture destiny. Like whoever you are, lean into that."
Yes.
And that will reveal itself. That will reveal direction. That will reveal where it is that you need to show up. And so if that, I believe that has been the case in my life and in your life, is, at some point you stop trying to create something and you just be who it is that you are, and let that lead and let that guide. And I think part of what you're doing in terms of letting my work be useful at Holla is a part of who you are, right? Which, like you said, you are helping, you are helping your mentors be better by not just hiring them to be mentors for kids, but you're hiring them and you're pouring into them. You're using, like my work, you're using Acts on Stage's work to help your staff be better.
Yeah.
And that's always been a huge part of who you are and how you do the work that you do. And so, go ahead.
I will say, I do think there's a lot of similarity in how we work, even though our gifts and skill sets are different, and we serve the population in our community just a slightly different. But I think the one thing that I have picked up about you, Michelle, is like you can work in front of the camera and you can work behind the camera. But I feel like you've always taken joy in working behind the camera.
I do.
You know what I'm saying? And
I do.
I think you get happier to see other people succeed more than you do in your own success. And that is me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm uncomfortable doing interviews. Believe it or not, I've been preaching, but for a long time. But I've always been the reluctant pastor. I always like to work behind the camera. I get way more excited seeing other people succeed than myself. And that's why you've been around for 30 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That is 100% true, Eric. As much if I'm on stage, it's because I think I have something to offer. But I think I do like being behind the scenes and pushing great work forward. Because it doesn't, yeah, just because I think that there's just so much more to do in that space, in that role.
Yep.
And I'm glad to do it. And even like honestly, right now, there are hundreds of people already signed up to be watch party hosts, and I hope that list continues. I get ridiculous joy thinking about how many good conversations are going to happen because people have a tool or people have a moment that we've worked on to help them have these conversations. It's hard to sleep at night sometimes because of how much value in that. And some people have called and said, hey, can you or your director, Isaiah Anderson, can you guys come to our watch party? And I'm like, we can maybe drop in, but we're working on a tool for you to be able to do this yourself. And to me, that means so much more than whether we have to show up or not. And so yeah, I'm just thrilled to be helping people have these conversations. Hey, I don't want to hold you too long. I know you have you're late for whatever your next thing was. You were supposed to be there already. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking time to be here. Our brother Leroy is dropping in. Leroy,
what's up, brother Leroy?
And it's so good to see us. Leroy, I got to get you in here next on this new program called Faith Forum, where friends drop in and talk about little things like how a creative community can change the world. So we've got to get you in here, Leroy. Speaking of which, part of the objective of this Faith Forum platform, Eric, is to encourage artists and creatives and innovators. And so as a person who could fit into any of those categories at any time, I just wonder what encouragement or insight you might have for artists, creatives, or innovators, on just how we might be moving the needle on such important work in our cities.
Yeah. I think you don't need to apologize for being who you are and dumb down that creative piece of yourself to placate other folks. You know what my dad put together, I'll say this real quick. My dad put together a Knox men's retreat like a month ago. And it was like, you know, my dad's in his 70s, his brothers, they're in their 70s. And then me and my brothers, we in our 50s. And then we got our sons, they're in their teens and 20s. And we brought a speaker in who actually I went to high school with, who's a police officer, and to talk about police brutality and the relationship between the police force and the Black community.
Yeah.
And this black police, he's a retired police officer. He was dope. I mean, I really liked some of the things he had to say. But afterwards, when he left, we asked, my dad asked all the other Knox men, what did we think? The older generation was like, we loved him. The younger generation was like, oh, heck no. You know, like he was out to lunch because he felt like we made concessions. My kids and my brother's kids felt like the police officer who was my age made concessions that they would have never made. And it was such a generational gap between the things my father had to make concessions on that I didn't have to make, but concessions I had to make as a Black man to feed his family that, you know, this next generation of kids don't have to make. And I say all that to just simply say, man, we stand on tremendous shoulders. And
yeah.
As I think about this next wave of young folks, man, they won't have to dumb down their creativity, I think, in a way that we had to.
Yes, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, they won't have to dance the way we had to dance
Yeah.
and the way our parents had to dance. And so this is a tremendous time for young folks.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody can relate to me, and I thank God for people like you, Eric, because when I was coming up in my church, I was, coming up in the African American tradition of, church or, variation of it.
Yeah.
And when I was going to college and all the places, anytime I would show up and just sort of had a different way of thinking about something, I would get called a rebel. I would get called different or interesting, and it wasn't like they were saying it like it was a compliment. It was like, well, here comes Michelle and her, rebel way of thinking. And so like you said, for a lot of times, I sort of retreated on being an artist and on being a creative and on thinking in innovative ways. I sort of withheld because I didn't get the sense that people wanted to hear it.
Yep.
I wanted to see it, whatever it was. I just got this impression that people didn't care for it. And now, obviously, years later, I understand that I wasn't being rebellious. That's just how I saw the world. I saw the world differently. I saw things just a little bit differently, or at least I wanted to have a narrative. The way I wanted to talk about it was just a little different. And like you said, I wish then I had more people to say what you just said, which is don't dumb it down. Go ahead and be that, and the rest of the world, they'll catch up.
That's why I supported. I mean, that's why Hala jumped on board. Just
Yep.
I'm not saying we were the only donation, but we want to donate just so you are always free to be you.
Yep.
Like to be your authentic self, and your organization be its authentic self.
Yeah, some people have come and said, little things like, well, there's so many other tangible issues to deal with right now. I just don't think the arts are important. I was like, the arts are always going to be important in these moments. It's almost like Jesus said, you're always going to have these things. You're always going to have these issues. And the arts are ways that we help people process those issues.
Yes.
Right?
It's funny. Some people know me. I'm a girls basketball coach at Benson Tech High School. We won a state championship 2 years ago, and I wore some of the most outrageous suits.
You did?
Crazy. Yeah. And man, I had so many people who didn't understand those suits. They thought I was grandstanding, thought I was drawing too much attention to myself. But my kids understood, like they were doing something historic. First Black girls basketball team to get to the state championship game, win it all. And every time we advanced, I came in with a crazy, whether it was a money suit or a Prince suit, a futuristic suit or a Pac-Man suit. And it was just me telling, our girls, freeing them up to be themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going out here and play and be different.
Yeah.
I'm giving y'all permission to go out there and be different.
Yeah. And not hide, whatever that is, don't hide that.
Yes.
Like, as you grow and as you develop, you'll learn, how to share space with other people and all of that jazz. But that's not the same as having to dim your light or having to dim who you are. Be fully who you are. Need that. We'll start to wrap up on this. For Acts on Stage, one of the reasons we exist is because we think that performing arts are a divine gift from God. We really believe that the performing arts, the creative arts, no matter how that shows up, whether it be on stage or on the court or on the field or in business even, we believe the creative performing arts are a divine gift from God. Amen. And that we're not utilizing them enough the way that we should. And in order to do that, you have to unapologetically show up. You have to unapologetically show up in a suit that's a little outlandish to make your statement. You know what I'm saying? And so I 100% agree with you. One of the things that we're going to constantly be saying to artists, creatives, and innovators is don't make any apology for thinking the way that you think. Right? Like whatever your idea is, throw it out there, give it life. And it might need some work. You might have to work on it. You know what? But you know what I'm saying? You might have to work on it, but give your ideas life. and let them find their way.
Amen. Yes.
And so we just want to always encourage our artists, our creators, and our innovators out there to be alive in who you are. Don't feel like something's wrong with the fact that that's how you show up. Brandon Bell, shout out on the clean suits.
Thank you, Brandon.
I think he appreciated it.
I see you out there. I see you out there grinding.
That's a good thing. That's a beautiful thing for you. If I were Brandon and somebody like you said that they see me, that would make my day.
Yeah.
Eric, thank you so much for coming through this little thing that we got called Faith Forum, again, which is our way of having friends come together to talk about little things like how a creative community can change the world. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. We'll see you next time. If you're interested, let me just say this real quick. If you are interested in joining Holla by being either a watch party host for 12 Angry Men or coming along as a sponsor at any level, please reach out to us. You can email us at info@axonstage.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. It's busy over here, Eric, as you might imagine. We're trying to do something big, so it's a little busy. But if they email us, we'll get back to them. We'll get back to them as fast as we can. Last thing, Eric Lamont says he saw some of those suits, and he thinks he has at least 2 of them in his own closet. So,
hey man, them suits is fly.
So like you said, representation matters.
Come on,
brother. Would you just say a prayer or a word as we leave, and then we'll check out?
Yes, I prayed for Michelle. I prayed for Acts on Stage. I prayed for the actors, the production team. I prayed for the money that is needed to get this night off the ground. And I pray most importantly, those that attend, that it would have an impact in their life, deep impact. Thank you for what Michelle represents, not just locally, but translocally, here in the Northwest region and across the country. Incredible, creative person that loves Jesus. And that's huge. And yet knows how to translate all that between the streets and her faith. So I just pray, God, that you would give her more resources than she knows what to do with, that this would be a launch and a tsunami of opportunity that would happen way beyond what she would expect. We know you're a God that allows us to reap where we haven't sown. And I pray that she reaps where she's sown, but places that she hasn't sown, that's gone before, that you would provide an opportunity for this and many more to sweep across this country and have an impact. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
I'm gonna stick around and talk to the people a little bit. I know.
Okay. I got to jump on a Zoom.
All right. Right.
Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah, you too.
What's up, everybody? Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you all for hanging out with us today. Just want to say again, if you are interested in hosting a 12 Angry Men watch party, or you want to come along as a sponsor, we have corporate sponsors, we have community sponsors, we have individual sponsors at any level. You should know this. If you do come along as a sponsor, you actually get your name in the credits that roll at the end of our film on November 22nd. And so for no other reason, I think that's kind of cool. You can say you helped produce the movie. But if you're interested, again, in hosting a watch party or in being a sponsor, please email us at info@axonstage.com, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Again, we're busy over here making it happen, but we want to make sure that we stay connected to you because you're the reason that we're doing this in the first place. God bless you all. Have a great afternoon. Peace and God bless.